Welcome to Ground Control. I have completed my build of the MinimumRC B-25 Mitchell bomber. It has 14.2-inch wingspan. I think that's 360 millimeters. It has two 7mm by 20mm coreless motors. It has 65mm props. It has a landing gear, and I think that landing gear is going to work out pretty well. Seems to roll pretty straight. The all-up weight on my build was 40.3 grams with the included 1S 260 milliamp hour 20C LiPo, and this is non-high voltage, just a standard LiPo. So the build process was pretty straightforward. I did make one mistake on the build. We're going to go out and we're going to Maiden this today, and then later on I will put together a build tips video to let you know some of the things that may make the build a little bit easier for you and help you avoid one of the mistakes that I made on the build. But it wasn't anything that could not be corrected. So everything is good. I've got everything programmed. It's ready for flight. Since this does have two independent servos on the ailerons, I am going to be programming flaperons on it as well, and then in a later flight we'll see exactly how that works out. But should provide for a little, a little slower flight capability of the plane. But it is really a neat looking little profile B-25 Mitchell. I think they've done a really good job. It's made out of a KT foam board. It's 2mm thick and very lightweight. I think the all-up weight on my airframe before I put in the electronics on it, and that included the landing gear, I think it was 16.9 grams, something like that. I'll have all that information in the show notes for you. But anyway, let's go out in the desert and toss this thing into the wind and see how well it flies and validate the CG on it. I'll see you out the field.
Okay, it is time for the maiden flight of the MinimumRC B-25 Mitchell bomber. Now I'm not too sure about the CG on this. It says 10mm back from the leading edge, but that seems awful far forward to me, and I would have to put the battery almost at the nose. So I've got it set right where the bend is in the main wing, about 30% of the way back. So I hope that that's going to work out. I hope that doesn't make it too tail heavy. But anyway, let's see if we can get it in the air. Woo! I guess I need to give it full throttle on launch. Let's try that again. Yeah, I think I am a little tail heavy. Looks to me like I am definitely tail heavy. Let's bring it back in and land it. Woo! Woo! Way tail heavy. Way tail heavy. Okay, I have got the battery taped on it pretty far forward. The end of the battery is right up against the front strut. So let's see what this does. I think I still seem to be slightly tail heavy, and I've got full throttle right now. throws on the controls and everything seem good, but it still seems slightly tail heavy. That is a cool looking plane. I think what I'm going to do is put some slightly larger props on it, just to see, you know, how much thrust that adds. If these 720 motors can spin them, I think I'm going to put some 2.5-inch props on it. Okay, let's see if we can bring it in and land it. Okay, I've got some slightly larger props on it, so we'll see how that works out. I've got my battery moved forward ever so slightly from where it was, but I think I'm still going to be just a little bit tail heavy. So let's go ahead and get it in the air and see what we have now. That did not sound too good, but I definitely have more thrust than I had before. And I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm still slightly tail heavy. But it certainly is moving through the air much better than it was. It definitely, with these two props on here, even though it sounds like one of them is out of balance, it definitely has more power. Tail heavy like that, I've got to be careful not to put in too much aileron. Pretty slick. It moves faster than I thought that it would. Yeah. Let's see if we can throttle back a little bit and keep it near. Oh, there's my timer. It's already been 3 minutes, really? Pretty slick, I have to say. I think I would like a little more power on it. You know, I think if it, I don't know. I may see if I can put 85-20 motors on it. Maybe with 3-inch props, and that would add a little bit of weight to the nose. Pretty slick though. Yeah. Feel a lot better if I didn't have a prop that was so far out of balance, but okay, I think we're running out of juice, so let's make this turn and bring it in. Dead stick.
Okay, so I had 3 takes on the maiden flight. With the stock motors and the stock props, which are, you know, shorter, smaller props than what I have on here now, by about, I'd say, 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, I would say. It was way underpowered, I thought. I had to put it in, you know, and I know it was tail heavy. It was pretty tail heavy when I launched it the first time. But it was way underpowered with the stock props and the 720 motor. So I had it at full throttle, you know, when I launched it the second time. And when I was flying around, I had it at full throttle. And I was just barely able to keep altitude. So I'm glad that I took some micro props with me out to the field. So once I switch those stock props out and put these slightly larger props on, it had sufficient power to cruise around. If you saw on the third take. I think it was the third take. So it had plenty of power to cruise around, but it still definitely didn't have any power, I don't think, to do any aerobatics with it. So, and I still had a tail heavy condition. And now I had the battery, I basically taped the battery underneath it, and I had the end of the battery stuck right up against the front strut. Being that I want more power on this airframe, and I really like the airframe, I think this airframe is a really good airframe, and I think with the right amount of power and getting the CG correct on it. Now when I went out, I set the CG back here, you know, and in the manual, in the build guide, it said 10 millimeters back from the leading edge, and I thought that can't be right. You know, and my experience with most factory planes is their CG is usually way off. And when I say way off, I mean usually 10 millimeters or more. So I think that these guys, MinimumRC, are spot on with where the CG needs to be located on this plane. So given the fact that I want more power, and I don't want to put my battery that far forward to get the CG correct, I think I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I think I'm going to replace these 720 motors with 8520 motors, and I think I'll try them with these props to begin with, see how well the 8520s spin these compared to the 720s. I may not have to change props, but if I do, I'll be putting 3-inch props on them. I think I'll have about, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch clearance between the end of the prop and the fuselage, so I think 3-inch props are about as big as I'm going to get on here. But I will take my 8520 motors and I will put one of these props on it, put it on my thrust stand just to see, because these motors on the thrust stand, I was kind of worried about that. These motors with the stock props on the thrust stand were only putting out 17 grams of thrust. That's only 34 grams of thrust total between the two motors. And the all-up weight on the plane was 40.3 grams, so yeah, not even close to a 1-to-1 thrust-to-weight ratio. So I will be replacing these motors. First I'll test the motors on the thrust stand. If it looks like two 8520s are going to give me the amount of thrust I would like to have with the props that I have on here now, then I'll be in business. If not, then I'll look at 1020 motors. I'm sure that the 1020 motors will give me enough power to do aerobatics with this plane. So, and I'm hoping that with the heavier motors forward of the CG, that will enable me to not have to put my battery so far forward to get the CG where it needs to be. So it was kind of squirrely on the third launch. I should have known better than to put much aileron into it with it being tail heavy, because that just exacerbates the problem. So if you saw the second half of the flight on the third take, it was flying around pretty smooth because I was making sure that my turns were a lot more shallow, being that it was tail heavy, and then it was pretty darn smooth. So I think once I get the power, adequate power added to the plane, get the CG where it needs to be, 10 millimeters back of the leading edge of the wing, I think this is going to be an awesome flying little B-25. So I can't wait to get those changed out and get it back out there in the air again. So watch for that. I really like this airframe. I think it's pretty darn cool, and I also think this plane might be a good candidate for brushless conversion on down the road with some 1102s. So think about that too. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Links to this plane will be down in the show notes. And then when I get the power system all worked out, I'll put links to everything that I put on the plane. So if you're looking for a cool looking little micro B-25 Mitchell bomber, the kit is pretty inexpensive. And it's a pretty straightforward build. I'll be putting together a tips video on my build to show you what I did and what I would do different if I was going to build it again. So thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the air.